So for the first section, we're going to talk about a few of the things that you want to consider prior to forming your company. And there are a couple of things to give some thought to. Key among them being the tax positioning of your company, what type of company it's going to be from the perspective of the IRS. And it bears some thinking about, because when you choose a type of company you often are choosing the tax structure as well. So the key question is your company going to be what's called a flow-through, where profits and losses inside the company flow automatically out to the owners? Or will it be a C corporation, and that's the type of company that maintains all of the profits and losses inside the company? So that's kind of a key consideration, a number of things, including who the original owners are going to be, what types of earnings they have outside of the company project. All sorts of considerations come into play there. And you also want to think a little bit about down the road, can you move out of the form that you choose to begin with? And so the most common types of entities are three: corporations and limited liability companies and partnerships, limited partnerships. I'll start with the latter. Those limited partnerships are used less frequently and more typically in specialized situations where you've got one controlling party and a number of partners that really want to have little involvement. That's less typical. A limited liability company can offer you a lot of flexibility at the beginning of the company's life, and those are typically flow-throughs from a tax perspective. So if three entrepreneurs form a limited liability company, assuming it's going to be a tax flow-through, those entrepreneurs would each receive a share of the profits and losses that the company generates from year to year. With startups early on, for usually the first 2 or 3 years at least, you're going to be generating losses. So losses would flow through to the partners. Those can be advantageous to some partners. So that's one reason to consider using a tax flow-through in the form of a limited liability company. Limited liability companies are also very flexible. They're creatures of contract, so you can really agree to pretty much anything you want as far as the governance and control of a limited liability company. The third option is a corporation, and that may be the most common type of company that entrepreneurs form at the beginning. Corporations are well known to investors. Investors are generally very comfortable with them. They understand that there's no tax flow through of profits or losses, which means that owning stock in a corporation is relatively simple. It doesn't affect your other tax returns, that sort of thing. And so those are very commonly used.
And just one note is that there is something called an S Corp, which is a flow-through type of corporation. Those are not recommended for this type of a venture because they require a certain type of shareholder, and your investors, which are institutional in general, are not qualified. So just keep that in mind, that not all corporations are created equal. But I think...
Good point. Good point. And thinking about the types of investors you're going to have long term is also another factor. One other piece to consider is that it's easy to turn from a limited liability company into a corporation a year or 2 or even 3 years down the road if you've been a tax pass-through. It's much less easy to start life as a corporation and then decide 2 or 3 years down the road that you want to flip into a partnership or a pass-through structure. So just another thing to keep in mind. Easy to go from an LLC to corporation, not so easy to go the other direction. Another aspect, another consideration is what state you're going to form your company in. We recommend to pretty much all entrepreneurs, except in sort of very special instances, that they strongly consider Delaware for either a corporation or a limited liability company. And the reason for that is that Delaware has developed a market niche as the home of corporations and companies. As a result, they have really strong statutes around the governance and ownership of corporations. They also have a lot of case law that's come through their courts. So owning a Delaware company makes everything predictable for everybody around the table, for the entrepreneurs that started the company and for the investors coming into the company.